Kale Darwin had spent most of his life on the battlefield, and he thought he had seen everything the galaxy could throw at a human soldier. But nothing had prepared him for the moment when a dragon-like alien approached him in the crowded Martian trade station. The creature's scales shimmered with a deep purple hue, and her golden eyes glowed like molten sunlight. She moved with a grace that made Kale almost stumble. When she pressed her claw gently against his arm and whispered, "Pretend we're a couple just for today," he froze. The station was busy. Merchants shouted over the hum of hovering carts, and travelers from 100 different worlds jostled past each other. Alien species of all shapes and sizes walked the aisles, bartering for goods, selling foods that smelled strange and sweet, and carrying items Kale couldn't begin to identify. Amid all this noise and chaos, Lysara's voice was soft and urgent. Her scales reflected the neon lights overhead, and her wings, folded neatly along her back, twitched slightly as if she were afraid of being noticed. Kale tried to speak, but his mind felt empty. He had been trained to assess threats instantly, to act decisively, and to trust no one. Yet, looking into Lysara's eyes, he sensed something more than fear. There was a vulnerability there, a silent plea for help that went beyond words. He had learned long ago that those moments, rare, fleeting, and fragile, were the ones that could change a soldier forever. And now he was being asked to step into one. Why would you ask that? Kale finally managed, his voice low, careful not to draw attention. Lysara shifted, her long tail curling slightly behind her. Because I need protection. Because if they see me alone, they will take the artifact I carry and I won't survive. I have no one else to trust. Her gaze flicked nervously toward the station entrance, where a group of cloaked figures moved with deliberate pace. Kale noticed how quickly she scanned the crowd, how her eyes tracked everyone who came near. She was alert, aware, but clearly desperate. Kale's mind raced. He had faced criminals, smugglers, and mercenaries, but the threat Lysara spoke of felt different. It was organized, patient, and dangerous. She wasn't asking for help in a simple rescue mission. She needed him to create a story, a lie that would protect her in front of witnesses who could be deadly. And yet, for some reason, Kale felt a pull toward her, a strange sense of responsibility that went beyond duty. "All right," he said, nodding slowly. "I'll do it. For today." He didn't know why he agreed so quickly. Perhaps it was instinct, or perhaps the sharp glint in her eyes had pierced the layers of caution he had built over years of war. Either way, his decision was made. Lysara's relief was immediate. She stepped closer, brushing lightly against his arm, a small gesture of trust. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know what this means to me." Kale glanced around the station. He noticed how the other travelers paid no attention to them yet. Perhaps it was the way her scales shimmered in the light, or the simple elegance of her form, but she stood out without demanding attention. And yet he knew it wouldn't last. Shadows moved at the edges of his vision, and he could feel the hum of danger in the air. The artifact she carried must be valuable, and those who wanted it would not hesitate to strike. They began walking together, carefully matching steps, pretending to be familiar as Lysara instructed. Her hand brushed his arm occasionally, guiding him through the crowd, and he tried to mirror her movements. It was awkward at first. Kale had never held a hand like this in front of anyone, let alone an alien dragon. He felt clumsy, stiff, and painfully aware of every eye that might be on them. Yet every time he looked at her, he saw gratitude, relief, and a flicker of trust that made his chest tighten in an unfamiliar way. Lysara whispered instructions in his ear, her warm breath brushing against him. "When they ask about us, act natural. Smile, nod, laugh if you must. And never let them see fear." Her words were precise and urgent, and Kale absorbed each one, repeating them silently to himself. He had learned to follow orders in battle, but this was different. There were no weapons involved, only gestures, words, and presence. And yet, he understood immediately that these small actions could save a life. As they passed a stall selling alien fruits, Kale realized how foreign everything around him felt. The colors were too bright, the smells too sharp, and the sounds too many to process all at once. And yet, there was a strange beauty in it. He had fought across planets, seen cities burn and empires collapse, but this moment, walking beside a dragon who trusted him completely, was unlike anything he had experienced. Lysara glanced up at him, her golden eyes searching. "You don't have to like this," she said softly. "Just keep me safe." Kale shook his head. "I don't know about liking it," he admitted. "But I won't let anyone harm you. Not today." The dragon's wings twitched again, a nervous motion, and Kale noticed her breathing had quickened. The danger was real. He could feel it, like a low hum under the floor of the station, creeping closer with every second. He didn't know exactly who or what they were, only that they would not stop. And yet, despite the fear, a strange calm settled over him. This was his choice. To protect, to stand, to face danger not because orders demanded it, but because someone needed him. They moved deeper into the station, the crowd thickening around them, and Cale realized that pretending to be a couple was no longer just about survival. It was about connection, trust, and the first flicker of something he hadn't felt in years. In the middle of alien chaos, a soldier had found something fragile and precious, a reason to care. And in her golden eyes, he saw that she had found the same. As the station lights reflected off her scales, making her glow like molten gold, Cale understood that this day, this pretense, might be the most important mission of his life. And when danger finally came, he would be ready. Cale Darvin and Lysara moved carefully through the crowded corridors of the Martian trade station, walking side by side as if they were an ordinary couple. At first, the act felt awkward to Cale. He was used to soldiers standing in formation, giving orders and fighting enemies, not pretending to be close to a shimmering alien dragon. Lysara, however, made it look natural. Her scales caught the light at every angle, reflecting colors Cale didn't have names for, and her golden eyes seemed to smile even when her expression was calm. "Just follow my lead," Lysara whispered. Her voice was soft but confident, carrying a rhythm that matched the station's bustle. Cale tried to mimic her movements, letting his hand brush against hers occasionally. The simple act of touching her felt strange, electric even, but he forced himself to focus. Every glance they exchanged, every step they took had to look convincing. They were not alone. Hidden eyes were watching, waiting for a mistake. They passed alien merchants selling glowing fruits, strange mechanical devices, and cloth that seemed to shimmer like liquid. The smells of exotic foods filled the air, sweet, sour, and sharp all at once. Cale noticed how Lysara flinched slightly when a large, tentacled alien brushed past her. Without thinking, he moved a little closer, instinctively shielding her side. She didn't speak, but her eyes softened, and she pressed lightly against him, a silent thank you. "You're getting better at this," she murmured. "Most humans look stiff and awkward, but you're different." Cale coughed, embarrassed. "I'm just trying not to trip over my own feet." Lysara laughed softly, a sound like wind over crystal. For the first time, Cale felt a warmth that had nothing to do with danger or adrenaline. Pretending to be a couple was supposed to be simple, a distraction, a shield, but now it was something more. He found himself noticing the small details, the way her scales changed color depending on the light, the delicate curve of her wings even when folded, the subtle way her tail moved with her emotions. "Why do you need me to pretend exactly?" Cale asked quietly as they turned down a narrower hallway. "Is it just to hide from them?" Lysara's expression darkened. She glanced over her shoulder as if the shadow of danger had entered the station itself. "It's more than that. My people, my kind, we have a ceremony once every cycle. If I appear alone, it is seen as weakness. The others will challenge me. They will try to take what I carry. You being with me, it changes the story. It buys me time, protection." Cale nodded, understanding more than he had expected. He was used to missions, strategies, and protecting lives in combat, but this was different. The stakes were personal. Every step he took beside her mattered. Every glance, every smile, every touch created an illusion that could save her. And slowly he realized that he wanted to protect her, not just because it was part of the mission but because he cared. As they continued, Lysara showed him how to move naturally, how to let their hands brush at the right moments, how to laugh lightly at jokes and pretend familiarity. Cale stumbled at first, but she was patient, guiding him with quiet suggestions. "Relax your shoulders. Look at me when you talk. Nod when I say something funny, even if it's silly." By the time they reached a quieter part of the station, Cale was beginning to feel more comfortable. He caught her looking at him out of the corner of her eye and realized she wasn't just teaching him, she was trusting him. That trust weighed heavily on him, a responsibility he had not expected to carry. Do you ever get scared?" he asked, finally allowing his voice to sound unsure. Lysara hesitated, then lowered her gaze. "Every moment. But fear can be hidden. Strength is not the absence of fear, Cale Darvin, it is what you do with it." Her words sank deep into him. He had faced fear countless times in battle, but hearing it framed like that, from a creature so beautiful, so alien, yet so honest, made him think differently. Protecting her was no longer about duty. It was about courage, about standing beside someone who relied on him completely. For the next hour, they practiced the pretense together, moving through crowds, laughing softly, and glancing at each other in ways that felt real even if the world around them thought otherwise. Kale noticed how Lysara's wings would twitch slightly when she was nervous, how her breathing changed when she felt vulnerable, and how her golden eyes searched his for reassurance. Each detail made him more aware of her presence, more invested in keeping her safe. Then, without warning, a loud crash echoed from the station entrance. Kale's body tensed instantly, training kicking in. He reached for the sidearm he usually carried, but Lysara stopped him with a gentle claw on his wrist. Her eyes were calm but intense. "Not yet. Let them come closer. We will move when the time is right." Kale followed her lead, feeling the bond between them strengthen. They moved as one, side by side, blending into the crowd, each gesture precise. Even the simplest touches, the brushing of hands, the slight lean toward each other, were deliberate. And with every step, Kale realized that pretending to be a couple had become more than a shield. It had become a connection, fragile and unspoken, but real. As the minutes passed and the station settled again, Kale looked at Lysara and felt something he hadn't in years. A quiet sense of belonging. Amid the chaos of alien worlds, smugglers and criminals, he had found someone who trusted him completely. And for the first time in a long time, Kale understood that the bond between two beings, human or alien, could be stronger than any weapon, faster than any ship, and more important than any mission. When Lysara finally smiled at him, that small, shy smile that was part practice and part truth, Kale knew that today's mission had already changed him. Pretending to be a couple had started as a simple act of survival, but it had become something unexpected. It had become trust. It had become understanding. And somewhere deep inside, Kale realized it had become something he might never let go of. Together, they moved forward through the station, ready to face whatever danger waited. And Kale felt a strange sense of certainty. No matter what came next, he would stand by her. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Kale, Darwin and Lysara left the Martian trade station in a small, sleek transport ship, its engine humming quietly as it slipped through the red clouds of the planet's atmosphere. Kale gripped the controls, his eyes scanning every instrument. Lysara sat beside him, her wings folded but tense, her golden eyes focused on the distant horizon. They had not gone far before danger made itself known. From the edge of the nebula, 3 sleek ships appeared, cutting through the mist like predators. Plasma cannons glowed along their hulls, and Kale recognized immediately that these were the hunters who had followed Lysara from the station. Lysara leaned forward, her voice calm but urgent. "They are fast, human. You must fly sharper, quicker. Follow my lead. Trust me." Kale's heart raced. He had piloted starships through asteroid fields and war zones before, but never with a dragon giving precise guidance beside him. Every instinct told him to take control, but her presence demanded cooperation. He nodded, his hands gripping the controls tighter. The first ship fired a plasma bolt. Kale twisted the ship just in time, the energy bolt grazing past them and igniting a cloud of red dust in the nebula. Lysara hissed softly, but her eyes remained calm, scanning the paths ahead. "Left. Follow that asteroid cluster. Don't let them see your moves in advance." Kale obeyed. The ship dove through the rocky formations, tumbling and spinning as he followed her instructions. Lysara pointed with her claw toward the gaps between the larger rocks, her voice cutting through the alarm system's noise. Each maneuver brought them closer to safety, and each glance at her revealed a calm focus that reassured him. Despite the terror of the chase, Kale found himself relying on her completely, trusting her instincts in ways he had never trusted anyone before. One of the hunters fired again, and this time the bolt exploded dangerously close. Shards of rock and energy sparks filled the cockpit. Kale's palms sweated, but he kept the ship steady, listening to Lysara's directions. "Oh, now sharp right. They won't expect it." The ship responded like it had a mind of its own, twisting through the nebula with a grace Kale could only achieve by following her guidance perfectly. Each movement felt like a dance, their actions synchronized. Kale marveled at her ability to sense danger before it arrived, at her understanding of the currents of gas and dust that made the nebula so treacherous. "You're doing well," she said, her voice soft, almost teasing, but it carried an edge of focus. "Don't relax yet. One mistake and we're done." Kale swallowed hard, but a small thrill ran through him. It wasn't just fear that coursed through his veins, it was the first spark of excitement he had felt in years. The combination of danger, trust, and shared focus with Lysara created a bond stronger than any battlefield training. For the first time he realized that survival was not only about skill, it was about connection. Suddenly, a massive asteroid appeared ahead, larger than any he had seen. There was no way around it in time. Kale froze for a split second. Lysara's claw shot out, tapping the console and pointing. Spin. Barrel roll. Go under the right flank. Kale acted, twisting the ship with precision, barely avoiding a collision. Sparks flew from the hull as the asteroid scraped past, and the hunters faltered for a moment, surprised by the maneuver. Kale exhaled sharply, his body trembling from the rush of danger. Lysara gave him a small, approving nod, her golden eyes glinting in the dim light of the nebula. You see? You're learning fast, she said. Humans can adapt, but you can anticipate too. Kale looked at her, a strange smile tugging at his lips. He had been trained to survive, to fight, to endure, but in this moment he felt alive in a way he hadn't in years. Every movement was shared, every glance meaningful. Pretending to be a couple had become irrelevant. They were partners in survival, relying on each other fully. The hunters regrouped, forming a tighter formation. Their plasma fire grew more precise, and Kale realized they would need more than skill, they would need a plan. He glanced at Lysara. Any ideas? He asked, knowing she would have one. She smiled slightly, a glimmer of mischief in her eyes. Yes, we will split. You take the upper route, I take the lower. They won't know which one I will appear from first. Trust me. Kale nodded. He had no choice but to trust her. The ship split into two paths, one through dense clouds of neon gas above, the other through a twisting canyon of rocks below. Kale followed the upper route, hearts racing, eyes scanning the hunters. Plasma fire followed, but Lysara's plan worked. One by one the enemy ships faltered, unable to predict her moves. Finally, after a tense chase that seemed to stretch for hours, the hunters broke off, retreating back toward the edge of the nebula. Kale's ship floated in silence, the nebula around them glowing softly with swirling colors. He turned to Lysara, who had folded her wings and leaned back, breathing evenly now. Her scales caught the nebula light, making her glow like molten gold. You did it, Kale said quietly, almost in disbelief. We survived. Lysara smiled, but there was a seriousness beneath it. We survived, yes. But this is only the beginning. Others will come. And the artifact, it will draw more danger. You have proven your courage, human, but there is more to do. Kale nodded. He didn't feel fear anymore, not completely. He felt something stronger. Trust, connection, and an understanding that humans could face impossible odds and survive when they worked together. Lysara had shown him that. And in turn he knew he would not let her face the next danger alone. As the nebula swirled around them, Kale realized something important. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the fastest or the most powerful. But when they chose to act with courage, loyalty, and heart, they could overcome almost anything. And at that moment, flying side by side with a dragon who trusted him completely, Kale understood that humans could be a force the galaxy could never ignore. Lysara glanced at him again, her golden eyes softening. You are different from the others, Kale Darvin. Today you became more than a soldier. Today you became my partner. Kale looked back at her, a small smile breaking through his fatigue. Then I guess, we're a good team. She nodded, a glimmer of warmth in her gaze. And together, they disappeared deeper into the nebula, ready for whatever challenges awaited them next. Kale Darvin and Lysara drifted into the quiet of an abandoned space station orbiting a small, icy moon. The nebula behind them glowed faintly, painting the metal walls in shifting colors of purple and red. For the first time since leaving the Martian trade station, there was a moment of calm. The hum of the engines had faded, leaving only the occasional creak of the station's hull. Kale sat on a metal bench, rubbing his tired hands, while Lysara perched on a ledge nearby, her wings folding in a way that made her seem smaller, almost human. For a long moment neither spoke. The silence felt heavy but not uncomfortable. Kale watched her scales shimmer as she shifted slightly, and he realized how tense she had been during the chase. Now in this quiet she seemed almost fragile. Why did you need me to pretend? Kale finally asked, his voice low. He did not want to break the calm, but he needed to understand. Lysara's golden eyes met his, softening. Because of my people. I am Lysara of the Vaetheri, she said quietly. We have rules, traditions, and enemies. Alone I am seen as weak, vulnerable. If the others see me alone during the Festival of Moons, I would lose respect, perhaps even my place among my kind. And more than that, there are those who want the artifact I carry. Alone I could not survive. Kale nodded slowly, trying to picture her world. He had fought in countless wars, seen planets rise and fall, but he had never imagined a society so different, with traditions and dangers intertwined. And yet he understood. Duty, trust, survival, they were universal. "I see," he said. "So you needed someone to be beside you. Someone they wouldn't dare challenge." Lysara lowered her gaze. "Yes, someone I could rely on. I chose you because I sensed courage. And something more. Something I did not expect." Kale felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had faced death more times than he could count, but these words, spoken so softly, so openly, made him feel alive in a different way. Pretending to be a couple had been awkward, even embarrassing at first. But now, in the stillness of this quiet station, it felt like more. He cleared his throat. "And the artifact? What is it?" Lysara hesitated, her eyes flicking toward the station's exit. "It is a relic of my people," she said finally. "It holds knowledge, power, something dangerous in the wrong hands. That is why they are hunting me. And why I cannot show weakness. I cannot let them take it." Kale considered her words. He had fought enemies over weapons, over territory, over money, but this was different. This was about something ancient, something important to a whole species. Protecting her was no longer just a mission, it was a responsibility he could not ignore. "I won't let them take it," he said quietly with conviction. "Not while I'm here. Not while you're with me." Lysara's wings twitched slightly, a sign of relief. She stepped closer, her tail brushing lightly against his leg. "You do not know how much that means," she said. "Most humans would only see danger or opportunity. But you see me. You see what matters." Kale shook his head. "I see you because you matter. Not the artifact. Not the ceremony. You." Lysara's golden eyes softened, and for the first time, Kale saw something beyond caution or command, a vulnerability that she could not hide. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "It is strange, human. I have trusted many of my own kind, but I have never trusted someone like this. Someone who does not expect anything in return. And yet, I feel safe with you." Kale felt the weight of her words. He had learned to trust in battle, to rely on comrades, but this was different. This was trust given freely, without conditions, without expectation. And he realized that he had begun to feel the same. He trusted her instincts, her guidance, her judgment. And he cared deeply, more than he had anticipated. For a moment they simply sat together, the hum of the station echoing around them. Kale reached out, hesitating for just a second, and touched her claw gently. Lysara did not pull away. Instead, she pressed her fingers against his, a silent acknowledgement of the bond forming between them. "You don't have to pretend with me," she said softly. "Here now, you can be yourself." Kale nodded. "And you can be yourself too." He looked at her scales, the way they shimmered under the station lights, and felt a strange sense of wonder. "Lysara, I think we work well together. Not just for survival, but in every way that matters." Lysara's wings twitched, her tail curling slightly. "You surprise me, human," she said, her voice warm. "I did not expect this connection. Yet now I feel it and I am grateful." They shared a quiet moment, a pause between chaos and the unknown future. Kale realized that this bond, born of pretense, forged in danger, was real. It was fragile, yes, but powerful. And it was something worth protecting, no matter what came next. Suddenly, a faint signal pinged on the station's radar. Danger was approaching again. Kale rose quickly, his training returning to the forefront, but this time with a difference. He was not alone. Lysara was beside him, calm, focused, and ready. "Are you ready?" she asked, her golden eyes meeting his. Kale nodded firmly. "Always." Together they stepped toward the station's exit, their trust and bond stronger than fear. They knew that more challenges would come, more enemies would pursue them, and more choices would be demanded. But for now, in this quiet space, they had discovered something rare: honesty, trust, and the courage to care for each other. And Kale understood, with a certainty he had never known before, that humans were never truly alone when they dared to trust and stand beside those who needed them most. Kale, Darwin, and Lysara emerged from the abandoned space station into the open void, the icy moon behind them and the glowing nebula ahead. The hunters were coming again, faster this time, their ships cutting through space like sharp blades. Kale's hands tightened on the controls, his mind steady despite the rising adrenaline. Lysara leaned beside him, wings slightly extended, scanning the approaching vessels with sharp golden eyes. "They are faster than before," Kale said, his voice low. "We can't outrun them all." Lysara's gaze never left the incoming ships. "We don't need to outrun them," she said. "We need to fight smart. Side by side, human. Trust me." Kale nodded. They had survived before because they trusted each other. Now it was time to see how far that trust could go. The first hunter fired a plasma bolt, streaking past their ship. Kale rolled the controls, dodging instinctively, while Lysara's sharp senses directed him through gaps between floating asteroids. Their movements became synchronized, almost seamless. Kale fired a few counter shots at the enemy ships, while Lysara used her wings to channel short bursts of plasma energy, hitting their pursuers with precision. "You're learning faster than I expected," Lysara said, a small grin on her face. "Keep your focus. Don't let them trap us." The hunters tried to flank them, aiming to corner the ship in the dense nebula. Kale realized that their survival depended on more than just reflexes. It depended on courage. Fear had been a constant companion all his life, but now he felt something stronger. He felt purpose, loyalty, and determination. This was not about orders or missions. This was about protecting someone who trusted him completely. One hunter ship moved close enough to fire again. Lysara hissed sharply and leaned over, pointing at a narrow canyon of rocks. "Through there. Barrel roll now." Kale obeyed instantly, twisting the ship with every ounce of control he had. Sparks flew as the ship scraped past the rock walls, narrowly avoiding destruction. The enemy faltered, giving them a brief advantage. Kale felt a rush of triumph, but he kept his eyes on the hunters. Lysara's presence beside him was steady, her calm focus pushing him to act beyond instinct. "We have to split them," Lysara said quickly. "You take the upper path around the gas clouds. I will take the lower route. They will not know which path I will appear from." Kale nodded, trusting her judgment completely. As the hunters followed, the plan worked perfectly. Lysara's sudden appearance from below startled them, and Kale's careful maneuvers from above caused confusion. One by one, the hunter ships began to break formation. Plasma bolts missed their mark, and the hunters had to retreat. For a moment, space was silent around them. Kale exhaled slowly, realizing they had survived yet again. But he knew the danger wasn't gone. Others would come. The artifact still made Lysara a target. Yet, the fear that had gripped him before was replaced with clarity. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was action in spite of it. And now he understood what it truly meant to be brave. Lysara looked at him with a small smile. "You are different from the others, Kale Darvin. You have courage, yes, but also heart. You do not just fight, you protect. That is rare among humans." Kale felt the weight of her words. He had always thought of humans as small, fragile, insignificant compared to the galaxy's giants, dragons, and powerful species. But Lysara's words reminded him of something he had learned in battles long ago: courage, loyalty, and the willingness to act even when the odds are against you. Those were the things that made humans exceptional. "We're a team," he said quietly. "I've learned from you just as you've learned from me. We survived together." Lysara's wings twitched lightly, a gesture Kale now recognized as approval. "Yes. Today we did more than survive. We proved that even the smallest, seemingly weakest beings can face overwhelming odds and prevail." They flew through the nebula, the swirling colors reflecting off Lysara's scales, making her glow like molten gold. Kale looked at her, feeling a mixture of awe and deep respect. The bond between them, forged through trust, danger, and shared focus, had grown into something far beyond pretense. It had become real. "Lysara," Kale said softly, I think I would follow you anywhere. Not because I have to, but because I want to. We are stronger together." Lysara's eyes softened, the golden light in them warm and sincere. "And I would follow you, Kale Darvin. Today you showed me something I had never believed possible. That humans can be brave, loyal, and compassionate. You are proof of what your kind can be." The hunters had vanished for now, retreating into the edge of the nebula, but Kale knew they would not give up. Yet he no longer felt fear. With Lysara by his side, he felt prepared for whatever would come next. They were not just pretending anymore. They were partners relying on courage, skill, and trust. As they moved toward the next checkpoint in the nebula, Kale realized that humans were never truly weak, never truly alone, when they chose to act with heart. Strength came not from weapons, ships, or raw power alone. Strength came from courage, compassion, and the willingness to stand by those who depended on you. Lysara's voice cut through his thoughts, gentle but firm. "We are ready for what comes next. Together." Kale smiled. "Together," he repeated. He adjusted the ship's course, feeling a confidence he had never known. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But for the first time, Kale Darvin felt certain of one thing. As long as humans acted with courage, heart, and loyalty, they could face anything, even dragons, hunters, and the void itself. The nebula stretched before them, endless and glowing, but Cale no longer saw it as threatening. He saw it as a challenge, a place where humans could rise, where bravery mattered, and where trust could turn a pretense into something real. Beside him, Lysara's wings gleamed in the colored light, her eyes bright and steady. And in that moment, Cale understood the truth of all the lessons he had learned. Courage was not pretending to be strong. It was acting to protect, to stand by others, and to face danger with heart. And for the first time in his life, Cale Darvin felt fully alive.